welcome to episode 131 of The Greywoodie Show, your home for all things pipe, tobacco, pens, life, and everything in between. I'm your host, Nathan Davis, joined as always by my effectual co-host, Eugene Falco.
Sounds really sweet. I wish I knew more words.
Yeah, that would help a lot.
Yeah. What does it mean?
Make things happen.
Oh.
What you do.
You know what? I think I knew that one. I think I knew that, yes. Yes, that is me.
Yeah, it's a confusing one when you only hear it. It does not sound like what you think it means.
So, how are you today?
Chugging Black Rifle coffee, coffee saves, which tells you barely awake, but no, I'm doing pretty well. I just had it's one of those days that we're recording later in the day than usual, so I had a full workshop day back to back with us recording this, so I'm dragging a little bit.
Shut up right now and listen to the words that I have to say to come out of my mouth. Happy birthday to you, sir.
Thank you, man. Yeah. I brought along some special things because, this is released on my birthday, which is super exciting. 42, the magical number of Douglas Adams this year.
What a magic number.
So I brought along some 42-year-old crop, McCraney's Red Flake, the prime 1983 Red Virginia. I bought this a couple years ago and keep forgetting to open it on my birthday. And finally, we have an episode coming out that reminded me.
Yep.
And so it's the 1983 crop. It was actually tinned in 1999. For those who don't know, McCraney's Red Flake was a McClelland product made for McCraney's Pipe Shop in Charlotte, North Carolina. And it's one of the more sought after gone products. And I hesitated for a long time because, yes, it's my birth year. They only did like every, 12 years crops on this. So there are big jumps. And when I saw that they had a birth year crop, it was pretty awesome, but the price was not.
No, I bet.
And so I hemmed and hawed for years before Steve Norris gave me a really nice deal on this, and then I promptly forgot to do anything with it. And to go with it, I have a birthday pipe, I guess. My first commission ever was this 2016 Tim Thorpe Devil Ants, and it was a birthday present to myself when I first commissioned it. It took a couple months to come together, but it seems like a perfectly appropriate pipe to load up with this. I don't know. I've seen these tins going for $300. I did not pay that, but I paid way more than I should. And now it's a business expense because we're talking about it on the air. So now I can put that on my taxes and call it a day. Oh, my God. That smells so good. All I had to do was pop a little bit.
So did you get any presents yet?
No.
Oh.
No.
That won't do. That's no good.
We're a couple days ahead
Stop
in the real
world. Stop what you're
world.
doing right now. Put that away. I have a present for you.
All right. Awesome. I'll just sniff this in the meantime.
Expertly wrapped.
Like all of us wrap these days in a used Amazon Prime box.
That one's got batteries on the side. I thought the art was pretty cool.
Fiery lightning batteries.
I don't remember ordering anything with batteries in it.
Ooh, on top, I can see an uncanny symbol with a 42 on it. Wow. Yeah, so thank you, man.
I made you that today.
Gorgeous. Today?
Today.
That's awesome. While I was over cranking out K-Woodies. Got a green bowl coating and a wonderfully your patterned sandblast with a lot of awesome olive drab fill and my favorite green sparkly olive drab metallic stem. That is phenomenal.
I was particularly proud of it. So you get the first one. I think I finally figured out how to do a pipe finish that I like.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. That is really awesome. Has the U and the 42 on the pipe.
Yep.
I think I might skip the Tim Thorpe for today.
It's it's your pipe. Happy birthday.
Thank you. And the wonderful hat we were talking about that my wife does not want me to have.
No, who loves you? Your body, your choice. You want a silly hat? You get a silly hat.
Silly Polish style. Also known as a Greek fisherman. Yes.
You look just like George Martin. Oh, no.
Just what I
need. Take that off. You look too much like him.
Oh, yeah. No.
Oh, it's awful.
I've got the young,
Perfect.
not fat George Martin look going. Sweet.
You take a picture and send it to me so I can show everyone.
Show notes worthy. I can't think of George Martin.
He just looks like a toad. He does not look like a
pulls
man
his
that
head back
writes
and-
anything. He looks like a man that suffered a traumatic brain injury and sits on a park bench in front of a pier.
Yeah.
And when people say, "Hey, how's it going, Georgie?" he goes, "Yeah, yeah." That's what he looks like to me. That looks great on you.
It actually does look really good on me, and that's frightening. Maybe it'll be enough to convince the wife that I can pull off the look.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to, here, have a sniff of this amazing McCraney's that is not dried out. Thank God.
Oh, it smells so good.
Yeah, that's what I miss about McClelland and McCraney's.
Good.
I will load up my 42 Love It with my 42-year-old tobacco. So this crop is 42 years old. Tinned in 99 makes it 26 years in the tin
Sure.
after aging. So it's like me. It's well-aged. I like to lose that giant ring when I load my pipe because it gets in the way of everything.
Gets stuck in the chamber.
Yes.
So, yep. Made you love it. I think I had some help with that today because the staining and everything is unlike anything I've done before.
Yeah, it really is completely different. I'm pretty excited for that.
Someday I'll tell you how I did it. But I won't tell anyone else. It's your special birthday finish.
Yep, nobody else can have it unless you pay a lot of money.
Yep. More money than you have.
I'd be remiss if I didn't take some pictures of it while I was prepping the tobacco.
Yep. Get it loaded up and then pass it over here so I can look at it again. As soon as I finished it, I messaged Jen and I was like, hey, what did I write? It was dramatic. I was like, my love, look at this. And sent her a picture. And she's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I got skills. You married a man with skills.
Yeah, you can tell you just made it because the bowl coat's a little wet.
It's a little soggy, yeah.
That's fine. It'll dry with fire.
Yep. And I was thinking about it as I was coating it because I don't use shellac like everyone else does.
Right. Myself included.
Yeah. And that's okay because shellac is actually food grade.
Yes, yes.
They coat gummy bears with it. I just ate like a fistful or two of gummy bears and I was reading the package and I'm like, oh, it's shellacked.
Yep.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, and the shellac that the Greywoodie and Kwoodie offices use is super high grade. Pretty super.
Pretty awesome. That's, yeah, I got to come up with a clever name for that one.
Yeah, I went with a half bowl, so I'll be able to see the green bowl coating a little bit longer.
Yep. Please don't burst into flames. Please don't fall apart. Awesome. I guess I can make a pipe. So far, so good.
Obviously, the smell of the tobacco is amazing.
You know, it's really funny is like the other day when I was at the Greywoodie shop with you, working on the next batch of pipes for Uncanny, we were talking about Lovitz. I asked you if you wanted one of these. And you're like, yeah, if you don't mind. I was like, well, when they get posted, buy one. And it's funny, that entire conversation happened while I was tenanting the stem for your pipe because I had intended on making it for you for your birthday anyway.
That's really funny.
So
yeah, I loved how quick you were. It was just out of the blue. You're like, oh yeah. Do you want one of these Lovitz I'm making? I'm like, yeah. You know, if you have an extra, I definitely wouldn't mind. And
yeah.
Without missing a beat, just turned, looked at me, and went, well, then buy one when it's posted.
Yeah.
I lost it because it was too quick.
Yeah. Seeing as my entire pipe making venture is all your fault, the least I can do is make you a pipe.
Yeah.
It's the gentlemanly thing to do.
Especially when it's a Love It and I don't get forgotten.
Yeah. Yep.
Some people do.
Yep.
I miss my McClelland Red Virginias.
It smells pleasant. It's not like the other one there. Oof. Ugh. Warhorse. Gross.
Yep. It definitely does not smell like Warhorse. It smells like a good, straight Red Virginia, which is all it is.
Don't have to worry about not being able to get sources of tobacco with Warhorse. You could just use burnt hair and dog turds. Ugh. Maybe some armpit dander. Foul.
Yeah, I don't know why I love it so much, but I do. It makes me very happy.
Yep.
Just not here.
I finally made a pipe that looks good hanging out of your mouth.
Good.
It's nice. Yep.
We can go Greek fisherman cap and new pipe.
Now go write me a story.
I got one of those. Let's see. The last one is a sweet cyberpunk kind of thing.
Did you finish it? Mm-hmm. Oh, it doesn't count then. I want you to write me a story that you'll never finish.
That I never quite finish, yeah.
Nope.
Get the television rights and let them just finish it however they want because you're never going to get around to writing the last novel. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I can do that. I can definitely fail to finish. No. I'm actually really bad at failing to finish things.
Yeah.
I seem to finish everything, even if it's not good. Always the completionist. Never the, success.
So...
this episode was brought to you by my Opus 88 Omar Brown demonstrator, and who knows what brown ink. It's too many brown inks.
Brown. Industry brown.
And we come to you on my 42nd birthday, the inauguration of President Trump, and Martin Luther King Jr. Day. All the days in one.
This is trifecta of terror.
Yeah. Yep. Every 4 years, I get inauguration day and my birthday, but once in a while, I get that whole trifecta together.
Actually, I would call this a trifecta of triumph, if I'm to get political and maybe pull the curtain back a little bit on where I stand on all of this nonsense going on everywhere. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. From 1983, Red Virginia in my pipe, I'm happy.
Yep.
I could not care any less about what's happening around me or in the world right now.
I am drinking the world's worst coffee. Oh, it tastes like licking a pine dowel.
I made you good coffee. You lost it somewhere, didn't you?
No, I drank it.
Okay.
And left the cup at your house so you wouldn't forget it here.
As long as you drank it. Yeah, so we've been going down the Black Rifle hole further and further between Christmas and everything. So I've gotten hooked on their coffee saves. Coffee, which it says it nowhere on the bag that's what it is. It's named for the symbol on it, so it's a green bag with the red medic symbol and just says coffee.
Right.
And it's an homage to like the days of Folgers and crappy coffee in the military, the same medium roast and everything, but it's done well.
Okay.
So I have a UPCA mug of it, and then as soon as this is done, I have an entire mug after that to get us through the next part of our episode today.
Yeah. Happy birthday to everyone else.
Yeah, happy birthday to, let's see, Kelly in Briar Nation shares a birthday with me. Tom Baker, the fourth Doctor. Happy birthday to Tom and Kelly.
Wow.
And everybody else.
I suppose if I knew where my phone was, I could look stuff up. I don't know what I did with it.
Lost your phone.
I did. It's gone forever.
We're doing well.
Yeah. Yep. Well, our recording day was pushed back a day.
It was
for a very good reason. A couple episodes ago, we had talked to Mr. McKenna.
Yeah, as I'm sure you're aware, because it's our best episode by double what we've ever done before.
I heard that. I heard quite a few people listen to it.
Yeah,
and thank you again.
Yeah, and they seem to be coming back. Our numbers are up again, so thank you for tuning in for Jeremy and for continuing to come back thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, we're awesome. I mean, why wouldn't you want to listen to us talk about basically nothing?
Yeah, I mean, we do our best to never actually talk about something important and somehow accidentally do so anyway.
Yep. And then our last episode, we may have teased a little bit that we had something special planned yet again.
Yeah.
And then guess what? That's this episode. The special thing we had planned was that I was going to give Nathan a Greek fisherman hat for his birthday. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
We're just kidding. You can't get rid of us that easy.
Nope.
No, we actually have something really really incredible lined up for you. And we hope you enjoy it.
I hope so. Like I said, it's accidental. The episode resulted in some communication coming our way, and we didn't have to do anything to line it up.
Yeah. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to present you with an interview with Leonard Wortzel of STG. Enjoy.
Hi, Leonard.
Yeah.
I'm I'm Nathan Davis, one of the hosts of the Greywoodie Show. I'm joined, of course, by Eugene Falco, the other host.
Hi.
Hey, Nate, I know we've met over the years.
Yeah. I was trying to remember, so I, of course, did a quick Google search to get a face to the name and went, oh, yeah, I've definitely met you at the shows. It's been a few years since you've been to one, I think.
Yeah, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So, and maybe even, was it 19 they moved Chicago to downtown?
Yeah, 2019 was somewhere
and
around
did
there.
it on Memorial Day, and I was like, no.
Yeah, that was terrible.
But then I've been off doing other shit for the company, so I haven't been involved on the pipe side for really 21.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually perfect. The first thing I wanted to ask you was your current title and role at STG.
Yeah, so my current role on paper is that I oversee the fine cut or roll your own portfolio globally.
Okay.
But that's very recent. That happened starting in July, when then they immediately announced it was a surprise to us as well with the McBaron Sutliff purchase. So really, primarily for, since then, it's been a focus on the assignment was, hey, analyze both STG and McBaron Sutliff's portfolios globally.
Okay.
For pipe, tobacco, and fine cut. So we're talking over 4,000 SKUs, not blends.
Yeah.
Across both types in like 80 countries.
Wow.
Yeah, and the initial recommendation, I probably only had 6 weeks.
Wow. Okay. To analyze 4,000 SKUs.
Right. Well, in that, the U.S. portfolio, of course, was one. We'd already, from an SDG standpoint, that was as rationalized as it was going to get already. And I was at least familiar with, Sutliff and most of their products. But for the rest of the world, even within the SDG portfolio, particularly on fine cut, I was learning from scratch. And then you're like, what's happening in Japan today in the pipe tobacco and roll your own world?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's easy for the U.S. community to overlook how many other countries are involved in this and what that looked like and how many decisions had to be made.
Well, it looks very different for the rest of the world. I mean, there are certainly blends. We've certainly done rationalization. For both. We'll just keep this as a pipe discussion, but it was nothing like what's occurred here with Sutliff. It just doesn't look the same at all.
Right.
Globally for McBaron, there were not many brands eliminated and really not many blends eliminated.
Okay.
What more happened on the global side was, well, that blend doesn't sell very well in Japan, so we're going to stop. Right.
Okay.
But it still does well in Germany, so we're going to keep doing that. Right. So, individual markets will, still see, oh man, that was my favorite blend. Where did it go? But the blends still, for the most part, exist.
Germany in particular, how many McBaron blends maintained in Germany that we lost here. So there's been a lot of question in the community about that, actually.
Yeah. And unlike, with Sutliff, it was a very limited portfolio that was kept. It was pretty straightforward to make an announcement. I don't actually even know how they're going to handle that for the rest of the world as far as telling the trade and or consumers.
Yeah, it seems that's in early stages still, kind of in its infancy and how it's getting announced.
And the timelines are different, right?
Yeah.
The Sutliff, it was pretty big surprise to me how quickly that happened. That was not my expectation. For the rest of the world, it looks more like when we were closing down the Lane factory where, hey, this is a year and a half advance notice of what's going to happen, to the employees. And these transitions occurred over time. whereas the Sutliff, frankly, the final completed, like, okay, this is the portfolio for everything, was what really until December 1. I was under the impression that, okay, now we've got to take another few months to plan what's going to actually physically happen, factories and whatnot, and then a year or so out. But so certainly the Sutliff, the speed of that was unexpected, even from my side.
Okay, so that came from even above you, the crazy timeline that ended up happening and scaring everybody so much.
Yeah, I mean, and as far as, so again, and I probably misphrased it in some of the forums that keep getting shut down.
It's been fun to watch.
So to be clear, I absolutely was assigned to analyze these portfolios and make a recommendation. Yeah. After that recommendation, Max Stokkeby was involved, but he was on his honeymoon while that was happening. So any blame should be directed at me. We're a big company. You don't make a decision in isolation.
Yep.
What I did was make a recommendation, and that recommendation was accepted probably by 99%. Now, I am literally making commercial recommendations about brands and blends. There's a completely different set of people that decide, what does that mean now? Okay, you've told us what you want us to produce. Where are we going to produce it and how? Mm-hmm. What factor stays and goes? We call them work streams. That was a completely different work stream that needed my work to make their decision.
Yeah, their recommendations had to be based on what came out of yours. Yeah,
that's right. Now, I mean, again, in all candor, I'm fully aware. I was under no illusion that when it pertains to Sutliff, that the recommendation, I didn't know what the factory side would decide, but I knew what the factory side would decide based on my recommendation. Absolutely. I knew the consequence.
You knew that recommending 4 blends maintained meant there was no factory to stay. Yeah.
Yeah. And, even before this, hell, even with Lane, I mean, the plan was to consolidate those factories. I don't know this, but probably from the day of the acquisition in 2011.
Yeah.
It didn't happen in 2020. So, I mean, I know what you do with manufacturing is you want to fill up your capacity, and our capacity wasn't full.
Yeah.
So the odds of maintaining 3 facilities producing pipe tobacco were very, very low. In my mind, just my knowledge of past and of the company.
Yeah, business in general.
Right. So while I didn't make the factory decision, I was certainly aware of what the outcome of this was going to be, as it relates to that factory.
That actually leads me to a path. Do you think it's fair to say that STG, through this acquisition, and now I openly, STG did not go out looking for this acquisition, so I think it's smart to put that out in front. That this landed in your lap. But is it fair to say that STG really has a monopoly on pipe tobacco in today's market at this point?
No, under even just a straight definition of the word, right? Absolutely not. We are there are not many manufacturers, even with McBaron and now without McBaron, who can take raw leaf and turn that into a finished product, right? There's not very many left on the planet, and now there's one fewer. And it is safe to say that maybe there's somebody I'm not aware of, very few that are capable of supplying the global demand for pipe tobacco. Even though that demand is declining, so is the manufacturing base.
Yeah.
So, but when you have, particularly here in the U.S., a company like Cornell and Diehl, I don't see it as a monopoly. I see it as, for the moment, sort of a bifurcation of, what we're really good at and we focus on. are blends that are popular with a large number of people.
Mm-hmm.
What we're not as good at, or I say structurally, that's not what we're really intending to do, is to do these small batch kind of blends. We do, still do some of that, which creates a better market for the people who do focus on that. So that's why I say that.
Okay. So you expect Cornell and Diehl, Gewith, and all of these small batch processors to pick up some of the market share in lieu of McBaron and Sutliff then?
I mean, I would think it's inevitable, right? I mean, just, look, you're discontinuing all these blends. People aren't going to stop smoking. They're going to choose something else to smoke. Some of them will choose some of our blends, which are extremely popular. And some of them will choose Cornell and Diehl blends, which are very popular as well and often delicious.
Yeah.
And they have the capability, as structurally and from a factory standpoint and even from a business standpoint, to provide the type of constant variety that our hobby likes to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's safe to say that they will benefit from this, and I think that's okay.
Yeah, I think they will. The hard part, you speak of capacity. Cornell and Diehl is not operating at their maximum capacity. Yeah, there's only so much growth they can do. I think it's going to take years for them to fill the hole that is left by a lot of the small batch stuff, because they can increase, but they're going to hit a cap too.
Sure. I mean, I don't know. Haven't been there. I know Sykes very well. We serve on the pipe tobacco committee together. But yeah, I don't have a lot of insight into their operations. I do know that sourcing equipment and things like that takes time and money. And anybody has a desire to do those kinds of things. Yeah.
On that note, there's a lot of rumor going around about the equipment at Sutliff. Is any of that equipment going to be made available to other tobacco producers, or does that all go away with the factory?
So, and I think it's fine to repeat what I've kind of said on the forum.
We all know the forums are like 1% of the pipe smoking population, so I like to get it out in the open.
No, I don't mind. It comes. This is a better way to convey the info.
Yeah, thank you.
So what I know is, what I don't know is anything about what's going to go with that factory equipment. Right. I'm not involved in all of that work stream, but I'm in a lot of these conversations, and this has not come up. Right? Okay. So when we shut down the Lane factory, we offered everything up for sale. We didn't have many takers. I was working for STG, developing a separate group to do hemp cigarettes at the time. So the cutters, which people probably would have been interested in, I had them shipped to Oregon to cut my hemp. That's a whole rabbit hole. But other than that, there weren't a lot of takers. So a lot of it just got scrapped. Now, and even though I was just at Sutliff's factory in November, I did not go back through there. So it's been a minute. But it's older, smaller equipment. So if we just think about the process of making tobacco, so at Lane, in comes the raw leaf. It goes through a 40-foot conditioning chamber, right?
Yep.
That would humidify the tobacco so that you can then work with it.
And that's the equipment that a lot of these other smaller manufacturers don't have. To your point earlier, that there aren't many places that can process the raw leaf. This first step is what's missing from a lot of places. Yeah,
and then I think the other way to look at this, again, not knowing what decisions have been made at my company on this line, and I honestly, genuinely don't know. You have a choice. If somebody wanted to expand that part of their operation, they can spend several $100,000 disassembling this still smaller but larger equipment that is pretty old, get it reassembled down at wherever you're moving it to. Oh, by the way, you better have a machine shop because nobody makes parts for that anymore.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, you better be moving some people down from Richmond or up from Richmond, wherever we would go. Nobody knows how to operate or maintain that thing. We struggled with it at Lane.
Yep.
With this stuff. They don't make new young operators anymore. Or you could probably pay about double of that and get somebody to bring in a new piece of equipment that is fully supported. It's kind of like, I don't know what. Hey, man, there's this old PC, dude. Why would you throw that away? Bring it down here. I'll figure out a way to get an operating system on it and somebody who knows how to program it.
Yeah.
Even though that operating system isn't in existence anymore. And oh my God, if a chip fails, you can't use that chip anymore. Or you can spend more money and get something that works. That's the wrong phrase. Something that can be fully supported and done. So, what would, so to some extent, it might be a moot point, but overall, it's one of the reasons I kind of started chiming in on the forums. One, it was time that I was able to. I didn't want to just contribute to more noise when nobody in my company knew what the final decision was until December. So there's no sense in piling on that. And then I heard stuff like this, or that Peterson was on the chopping block, and more importantly, and it wasn't that much, and people jumped on and corrected it, but I started seeing disparaging comments about Sutliff itself. So I wasn't going to put up with it.
Right.
Well, I suppose that somebody could just buy the building with all the equipment in it and not have to worry about moving it.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
if they really wanted to.
And again, business is business. Look, we all, even now, and now we can talk about it. We've been supplying Sutliff tobacco for years.
Yeah.
Sutliff been producing private label for CI for years. We have been the distributors for McBaron in the UK for years, even though they're direct competitors. This happens all across the board in our business. And if it makes good business sense, and the company's usually going to do what makes good business sense. But I genuinely do not know. I haven't been in any of the conversations. If they've even occurred, I'm sure they're, somebody in real estate's probably looking at this. I don't know.
Right. It's outside of your purview, so you aren't privy to whatever decisions are not being made or being made yet.
Not yet. I mean, eventually I'll know.
Right.
But I don't know now, and I don't know that any decision's been made. And, that's what I don't know about that.
So I'd like to circle back to Cornell and Deal conversation. I'm a little bit ignorant when it comes to all of this, as anyone listening here knows. Is Cornell and Deal, are they a processor, or are they just do they primarily blend? I don't really know how they operate or at capacity like that.
I have not been there. I've not gotten into these conversations with, I don't know. I don't have an accurate answer. I genuinely do not. And if I did, I wouldn't share it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fair. I mean, that was an open-ended question for you, Nate, too. I don't know.
I mean, ask anything you want. But I mean, whoever believes it, I genuinely don't know. I haven't been there. And yes, if I did know, I wouldn't say a damn word.
Fair. So actually circling back, Peterson Tobaccos, obviously, so Laudisi owns the pipe side and STG continued with the tobacco. Were those rumors true? I know the decisions aren't fully made more than likely, but is that one of the portfolios that's being looked at for a possible pairing?
No.
Okay.
No. Now I say that globally, is there a market where this may come or go? Yes, but for the United States, 100% no. Again, the sort of kind of painful things that I had to go through with Lane after spending 10 years launching an overabundance of products.
Right.
Then between the FDA and the factory change, I probably had to cut more than 60% of 60% of that portfolio, most of which I had brought back. But that work had been done really in 2019, leading up to it. So no truth at all. They're still here and doing quite well. Again, I hadn't looked at the numbers in a minute, but I was like, okay, go Peters.
Yeah, and so what I know you were with Lane. What was you had a pretty major role with them, I think.
I think that's fair. Maybe that's where we should have started. Yes. So I was hired in 2011 after the STG acquired Lane from RJR Reynolds.
Yep.
We decided to move on from pipe tobacco. At the time, I was the brand manager for pipe tobacco. My background is a pipe smoker. Since I was 23, so call it 1995.
Yep.
No.
Nice.
Right. Anyway, 1995. I know that. However old it was. 24. And I went to probably a Walgreens, grabbed probably a Missouri Meerschaum and a pouch of Captain Black. Don't actually recall. And of course, I did that because I grew up watching my father smoke a pipe, and his father smoked a pipe, and his father smoked a pipe. But I had just come out of corporate Home Depot. And doing marketing stuff there, which was a great company, treated me very, very well, and I hated it. So I couldn't get out of my car in the morning. After about 5 years, again, no fault on Home Depot. I was not passionate.
It just wasn't your passion, right?
So I, at the height of the recession in 2010, took a year off, had a baby. And then started looking for jobs, and I was still so burnt out that STG is the only company I applied to. Everything else was nonprofits or universities. But I saw, one of the first things I saw on either Monster or whatever it was brand manager pipe tobacco. I had no idea. I live in Atlanta. I was smoking a pound of 1Q a month.
Yeah.
I had no idea that there was a pipe tobacco factory 15 miles from my house.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. A lot of people living right next to Sutliff never knew it was right down the road from them. Yeah.
Right. And at that point, and I wasn't that old, but I was 40. Had no idea there was such a thing as a pipe club. Had no idea there was such a thing as a forum. And it would never have occurred to me to buy my tobacco online. I think I'm a lot like a lot of pipe smokers in that sense.
It's one of the things in all of these conversations that I like to remind our audience of is the fact that the forum users, the Facebook guys, these podcasts, all of us vocal pipe people are like 2% of the pipe world. What you just described is what 98% of our customers really look like.
No, and that's true. But like with technology, it's the passion of the enthusiast that has helped bring newness to the newcomers. Yeah. Right. And we can go down that path as well. But just to cap off. So, oversaw the pipe tobacco, learned about these things called pipe shows, brought us back to that. Yeah. Then, most of what I did for a lot of that time was resurrecting all the things that RJR Reynolds had discontinued. Right. Like HGL, Herman G. Lane Bulk, Crown Equipment, all of that. I had to develop a little small batch operation in the factory. They hated me for it. We were packing tins by hand, et cetera, et cetera. But what I discovered along the way is that I'm not just a pipe smoker. I really like tobacco and the tobacco industry and everything about it. I never thought I would a career, and even with, look, I've gone through a lot of ups and downs with this company.
Yep.
I never thought I found a place that I was like, you're going to have to drag me out of here by my finger. I just never thought that would. But I'm ruined now.
Yeah.
Certainly for what side of the tobacco.
All right, so, that's an interesting point. So at Lane, you were in charge of resurrecting a lot of the blends that had been discontinued over the years. I know there is some hope from the community right now that this initial merging of the portfolios may look a little grim, but is there a chance that STG continues to look at these sales numbers and listen to the community and start to consider expanding certain portions of those portfolios?
100%, yes. And some of it will come with the community, but a lot of it will also come from the brick and mortar retailer. So our cigar sales force is calling on all these retailers every day, and a portion of them are also selling pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to get these requests. And the reason I bring that up, part of it's consumer. When I started bringing back the Lane bulk blend, the first person who told me what to do was a gentleman named Frank Blues. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. He designed some of the blends. He was an old Lane sales guy working for one of the bigger pipe tobacco distributors called Philip and King. And he had worked for Lane. He knew Herman Lane, right? So we're going back.
Right.
And he gave me my initial list: bring back hazelnut, bring back X, Y, and Z. Conversely, we had just at Lane a few people going around to tobacconists, and they kept telling me I needed to bring in all these blending components from Lane.
Yeah.
So I did. I brought in Perique. I brought in Lane Latakia, the different Virginia, X, Y, and Z, and ended up throwing most of it away because the demand wasn't really there by our standard. Now, I think, that's been a big question. One of the big questions from the community is, if I were to predict what would come back first, is if we see that demand is there, and or, then of course you're going to bring it back because it makes good business sense, right? And it makes sense for the community. Would my decisions have been different on things like that? Because really, for just straight Latakia, straight Perique, things like that, it's less of an FDA concern, and I'm sure we'll go there.
Mm-hmm.
I already had stuff on the market with just straight leaf. There is some casing, but you can prove X, Y, and Z. But if there weren't other folks like Cornell and Deal who can step up to that task, you can't have everybody cut off from everything, right? So that decision might have been different, even though the volumes may not have been quite up to, again, at Lane, thinking about our equipment, for our cutters and casing equipment to really work, you really had to run about 1,000 pounds through.
Right.
Unless you were going to have, so for the cutter to work, you need an extreme amount of pressure up against the blade, right? That's why you need this volume to build up for us. Otherwise, and this is what we were doing with the hemp, you need somebody up there physically shoving and pressing stuff down against a very, very, very fast and very, very, very sharp cutter.
Yeah. Yeah, very OSHA approved.
Yeah, not what we do. So that part of that is some of our constraints. It can be done, but you wouldn't want to watch it.
Right.
On our equipment. I'm less familiar, but a leg cutter is a leg cutter. That's how they work.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to Mike McNeil, and I do a lot, he would not allow another human near his cutters because they would chop their elbows off. Yeah,
he was very protective of his equipment. Fair. Speaking of holes, that's one of them. So, one of the products that surprised me to not be there was when McClelland closed and Mike McNeil gave up. Red Virginias were a very big hole in the market. I'm actually smoking 1983 crop McCraney's Red Flake from McClelland because it's my birth year crop, and this comes out on my birthday. But Sutliff stepped in and filled that Red Virginia hole for a long time, and I was shocked that there isn't an STG Red Virginia. Again, the vocal part of the pipe community is the minority, but it's a huge desired product.
Yeah. Well, I mean, let me start by saying I have not made all the right decisions. I guarantee you. I won't know which ones were wrong and right for another year.
Yeah, fair. It is tough to do that. Yeah.
I was just looking at the volume. So if we wanted to, we have Virginias in our portfolio, right? I had one under Lane, got one under Peter Stokeby. The Peter Stokeby was still there. It's probably not like his Red Virginia, and I assure you, it's not like Mike McNeil's Red Virginia, and I assure you, it's not like Mike McNeil's.
No, nothing will be Mike McNeil's. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure Mike will end up listening to this, and Mike, so you say, sir.
Mike is an awesome guy. So when I first launched my retail company, Greywoodie, it was a conversation in Chicago in the smoking tent with Mike McNeil that got Brian Levine to decide to put me on his show and do an interview that led to all of this, where we are now in this podcast and me owning K-Woodie instead of just Greywoodie. So Mike is a force.
The connectivity there is interesting. So I hear about these things called pipe shows. I've been in the role 6 months in 2011, and I tell my Danish boss, hey, there are these things. Don't ask me to quantify why we should be there, but we're kind of big in this pipe tobacco thing, and there's people that are really passionate. We should probably be there. So I go to St. Louis in 2012, and one of the first people who comes up with his typical sardonic, sarcastic smirk is Brian Levine. He doesn't ask me much. He goes, oh, I have someone you have to meet.
Yeah.
And drag me over to Mike McNeil. I'm wondering if your first conversation went with like mine. Leonard, what the hell are you doing? Get into this dying industry. It's all gone to shit. There's no good leaf left in here. Get out. What are you thinking? And Mary's pulling on his arm. Mike. So, I'm not sure if your conversation.
So A, that is the best Mike McNeil impersonation I have ever heard, and B, that's exactly what his question to me starting to sell K-Woodie pipes was.
That's funny.
Yep.
Not surprised. I did that to my boss, the president of Lane. I was like, we were at, I think my first IPCPR, now PCA, the big cigar tobacco show.
Yep.
And I said to my boss at the time, knowing exactly what I was doing, I was like, oh, Kelly, there's somebody you got to meet. And I was like, Mike, this is my boss, Kelly. Mike, what do you think about the FDA? And I patted my boss on the back and walk away. And I circle around for the next hour and just see Mike articulating, Kelly, they just want to fuck you. That's all they want to do. Sorry about the language.
No, that's all right. That is Mike.
I've actually been talking with him quite a. I would get even over the years about once a month my phone would ring, and I'd be like, okay, do I have an hour for this call? But certainly since July, that came back up. I've been talking to him quite a bit. Just shooting the shit.
Yeah.
Checking in on it. Which more people should do for those who have his phone number. Give Mike a call.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Make sure you have an hour or two.
Yeah. Prepare for a minimum 1 hour, maybe longer. Mike McNeil. You're not pulling him out of retirement by any chance, right?
No.
I haven't seen a big STG presence at the shows of late. When I used to see them there more, or with a bigger presence at least, if not less often, with more tables, more people, more conversation. Lately, it seems like you can't find somebody from STG to have a chat with, and for me, with the closure of Sutliff, that's really scary because under Jeremy's leadership, Sutliff Tobacco Company had supported the podcasts, the YouTubers, profit sharing, blends. I mean, I had 4 blends of our design, Eugene and I, out on the market, collecting part of the profits from that to help support us and keep this show running, which over the years has grown immensely, despite our efforts to keep it ridiculous. But he also supported the shows as a mainline sponsor for a lot of the shows. You know, we run one in Albany, New York, and without Sutliff's support, I don't know if we can continue on. And I don't know if STG has any intention of matching some of that sponsorship or support for these things.
All right. So I mean, certainly in my, call it from 2011 to 2019. 18, 19. Yeah, we were very active. God, I remember going to my first Chicago show alone, bringing every single bolt in the lane and Peterson to be portfolios, and never being able to walk away from that table for however too many days.
Yeah.
So a couple of things happened. They reorged. I was no longer vice president of lane. And then Max Stokkebye became a brand ambassador for Pipe Tobacco. So he was going around not only making sure we were at the pipe shows, but he was traveling 3 weeks a month doing events at tobacconists.
Yep.
Then COVID hits, right? So that activity slows to a crawl. And I'm really not even that in tune to what we've been doing since 21. Right,
okay,
when things start picking back. I know the activity would have slowed. So going forward, what is the plan? They don't know it yet, and I've still got to see if I can get a table, but I plan on being in St. Louis next month. We will 100% be in Chicago, picking up both what Sutliff contributed and what Lane was contributing, because we were still contributing to that show. For certain. And the rest of them, I don't know the answer to that. I know what I'm telling my company, what we should do. I know what, and to be clear, as we move forward on this, once we get through all of these transitions, my primary role is overseeing Roll Your Own Tobacco for the Planet, and Max Stokkebye's role is overseeing the pipe tobacco portfolio for the Planet. Now, Max actually left the company for a few months.
Yeah, I stayed in touch with Max until his phone number changed when he moved back to Denmark, so I lost touch thereafter.
He moved back to Denmark, got married in August, and he's back with STG, and that'll be his role. So we're on the phone every day or video conference, what have you. We haven't gotten there yet. I know I've said I'm going to St. Louis. We have different bosses now, but I know we're doing Chicago. Logistically, to the extent we're doing a lot of these shows, it's gonna be me there because maybe Chicago we can get them to fly in. But if it were up to me, I mean, yes, it's money, it's logistics, it's time, but it's not a lot of any of those things. And I don't care if it's whatever subset. If you've got people this passionate about your hobby, then you need to be there. I won that argument pretty easily back in 2011.
Yeah.
I think I'll be able to win that argument again, but I know those two right now.
Yep. And we were excited when you reached out. I mean, I'm sure you knew this wasn't going to be the easiest conversation and that we would have negatives and hard questions. And the fact that you're filling in for Max in a way, and that you were still willing to come on here. Actually, it means a lot to us, and the fact that you listened to our interview with Jeremy. So it's nice that you're doing what you can and answering the questions.
And so why am I on with you? None of these conversations is dodging the reality of the shittiness of this situation, nor turning it hyperbolic.
Yeah, and that's actually a great seg. The hyperbole, I've been really amused by the calls to boycott STG. While I'm upset about a lot of decisions, and that's clear, and I don't hide my feelings, I've been amused, I guess is a good word, by that hyperbole, because there's no effective boycott of STG. I mean, to your point about 507C and PS400 being the same, I get arguments every day of people who don't believe me, and then they don't believe you, and, you know, the power of suggestion, they taste Perique in it, and they don't taste Perique in the 507C, blah, blah, blah. So, but boycotting a company as large as yours, nobody knows how much STG is in everything, the same way they didn't understand that Sutliff tobaccos were used for LJ Peretti and used for Country Squire and all these other blenders that were using this, and without those, guess where they're going to have to turn? It's STG. So to kind of think about what your portfolio size means despite the paring down and everything, I hopped on smokingpipes.com to look at the best-selling bulk blends right now, and it was fun to look at because, of course, 507C is number one right now just because more came out after they found out it would go away. Number two was a Hogarth, and then it was Lane, and then another Hogarth, and those are only up there because they come out twice a year. So release date happened, and Go With Hogarth made it up the list. And then it's Stokeby and Arango and Sutliff and Stokeby and finally Cornell and Deal.
Yeah,
So
I mean, there's a couple of ways to address this. One, I don't fault anybody for feeling the way they feel. If I wasn't part of the tobacco industry and part of this company and wasn't your typical, back in the day, I don't smoke aromatics anymore, just give out a 1Q every month and I'm golden, but I was an enthusiast like everybody else, which I am now, but I might make the same decision.
Right.
So I can't fault that at all. And what I will say, and this comment got some laughs, the recommendation that I made that was accepted by my company, I felt was not only in the best interest of the business, but the best interest for the future of pipe tobacco.
Okay.
Two things can be true. I can be the guy who brought shit back like Crown Achievement and the guy who recommended the elimination of the entire Sutliff portfolio. I can be the guy who's recommending the elimination of the Sutliff portfolio, or our company can be doing that, and are being in the best interest of future pipe tobacco. And what I mean by that is, yes, we are a large publicly traded company, and this is about making money. We are a business, and it needs to be that way. And God forbid STG decides this business isn't worth it. Because then what are we looking at?
Yeah.
I was just talking about that today with all the talks of boycotts and everything online. It could be a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy because realistically, pipe tobacco is a very small part of the portfolio for STG. So what would it be to STG to just say, okay, nobody likes us, everyone's mad and you're boycotting us? I guess we don't make pipe tobacco anymore. They could be the engine of their own destruction. And guess what? STG just like marches on down the street like nothing happened. I mean, that's the reality.
Is that no? I mean, hey, make no mistake. Go to our website, our stated mission, and it's about cigars.
Yep.
But it is a good chunk of cash, and it's very, very profitable. So there is interest there. But I want to make sure that I'm making the decisions that maintains that interest for a very, 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 very long time.
Right.
Because the impact of the opposite is not good for any of us. That doesn't mean if you want to boycott, you shouldn't boycott. I'm really more talking about, and maybe it's self-defense, about the logic as both the guy who brought back all this shit and the guy who is in business with all of this, trying to make the best decisions for both sides. And the decisions are shitty.
Yeah.
And the decisions lead me to standing in the first week of November near Jeremy while somebody comes on a video conference and knowing that this is what the result of my decisions were going to be, and telling the people in that factory right before Thanksgiving, you're going to be out of a job, and you're going to be out of a job soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it you know, both of these things are true. You know, that's just, yeah, that's the reality of this.
Yeah, and it's tough because those business decisions for the long term of the business of pipe tobacco, you know, forget about business for just a second on that. For pipe tobacco, I think in some cases, yes, the hard decision and the crappy decision is the one that means longevity. And in my discussions with Jeremy, he even admitted that it may have been different tobaccos that he would have chosen out of the Sutliff portfolio, but it probably only would have been 3 or 4 more than the number you came up with if it were a purely business.
Jeremy does not agree. I mean, he may not disagree with the broad terms of what's happening, but we certainly disagree on a lot of the tactical decisions portfolio-wise.
Yes.
100%. And he may be right and I may be wrong. And we'll see, and I can correct my wrongs. But no, I mean, again, as we're in this phase, having had to do this before, not to this extent, but stand in front of a factory while they're getting told with a much longer timeline, but you will be losing your jobs. That's a thing, folks. I mean, that is a thing. And it's not to be taken lightly. These are people, in some cases, that have spent 35 years of their life dedicated to a company or more. At the time we did that at Lane, we had people who'd worked with Herman Lane still on the floor. So I understand the anger. I understand somebody's losing this blend or that blend. I'd be lying if I thought that was where my mind was at during the process, and even right now.
Yeah.
You know, it's even, I mean, Jeremy and I, this isn't like we just bought some anonymous competitor.
Right.
Jeremy and I have known each other for quite a long time.
Yeah.
Simon and I have known each other for quite a long time. We served on the Pipe Tobacco Council. From a business standpoint, and certainly from a competitive standpoint, I consider these people my friends.
Yeah. And from what I've gathered, that's a mutual feeling outside of this transaction. Ignoring that for a moment.
I mean, so professional in every aspect, and so protective, not being contrary to business sense, but so protective of the community. You know, I mean, dissertations on other options here, right? In every sense of the way. He has become a pipe tobacco man, right? He may not have started that way, but he's become a tobacco man.
Absolutely.
And any suggestion that Sutliff isn't profitable, they are in the scale of things. They're just not as profitable.
Yeah.
Or that anything was mishandled. No. The thing was about to go down before Jeremy got there. He's the one who made it a profitable
business. He saved it. Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know all the ins and outs. Pear had more insights on that on his interview, and I'm sure Jeremy would, that ship was going down, man, for Sutliff.
Yeah, they were in trouble when he came on. Yeah.
Before Jeremy got there. So, again, that was part of it. Even just the hint of a suggestion otherwise is ridiculous. You can believe it or not, but it's ridiculous. But no, I spent, we had the Pipe Tobacco Council meeting, and I had a chance to sit down with Simon for about 2 hours, about a week. Simon's the CEO, former CEO of McBaren. The week before he knew he was getting let go, and we just had the man's been there. He's maybe 50. He's been there 25 years. Those aren't not fun.
So with that said, with the whole thing with Jeremy bringing Sutliff back up, basically taking it out of the dumpster, what lends to the validity of the general public concern or observation that STG just bought Sutliff and McBaren to shut them down? Because from the outside looking in, that's exactly what it looks like. It doesn't look like anything was bought to be preserved. It looked like it was bought to eliminate a competition.
So I think probably the best way I've figured out how to describe this is, or at least a portion of this equation. Some of it's about math.
Yeah.
Some of it is about math, right? And part of that math is also about complexity from a manufacturing standpoint. So in, I don't know what year, let's call it 2015, I go down to the Dominican Republic working on a separate cigar project, which failed. Half Pipe. I love that cigar.
Yes.
But
I forgot all about that. But yeah, Half Pipe was great when it came out.
I'm sitting in a factory. I don't think it wasn't ours. And I'm looking in the corner, and there's this black log, about 6 inches diameter and 5 feet tall. I'm like, what the hell is that? And they're like, that's Anduyo. I'm like, what the hell is Anduyo? It's like, well, we take the tobacco, we wrap it up in these palm leaves, and I can't remember, they either bury it or age it for like a year or 2 years, and it just comes out of this highest nicotine, molassesy, anisey kind of thing you've ever seen. Yeah. And I'm like, somebody figure out how to give me a hunk of that. I want to play around with it. So I launch Lane Anduyo in a tin. Okay. That product, when I sold a tin of Lane Anduyo, if it sold for $5, I made another $5. For any manufacturing business, that's great profit. Yeah. Right? That was a very profitable product. Unfortunately, I'm apparently the only person on the planet who loves this. I'm smoking it right now. Who likes this product. Very profitable, but sold nothing. In the meantime, in the beginning, I walk out behind the factory. They're trying to peel this thing off of this log by hand. There's like 5 people. Wow. Sitting there peeling this by hand, and like, that's crazy, run it through the cutter. Well, it would just break the blade. Okay, so we find somebody who can cut this stuff. We bring it up, but then you're still running it through my tin line, which is 4 people in a room packing every tin by hand. Wow. Meanwhile, what are we going out of stock on? We've only got so many hours in the day. Lane 1, 2, which, by the way, makes even more profit than that product that one guy or a few of us love. Jesus, I'm using hand motions on the audio call.
I do it all the time.
So what have I done? I've taken away from a very popular product that everybody wants. Yep. And remove people who can produce it to go do this stuff by hand, literally take down the whole cutting line for several hours. Yep. While I do this. So in a microcosm, that's part of this decision making. And yet we do, I mean, what is the definition of small batch? By my definition, it's about 1,000 pounds.
Anything under 1,000, yeah.
That's not the sole decision. We do things under that, however, that is part of that decision. And yes, there is math involved. Yes, there are people that are going to boycott. There are people going to buy wonderful blends from Cornell and Deal and Sam Gawith or Gawith and Hogarth and whoever else. And yes, some of them are also going to switch to the brands that most people smoke. So it's a combination of those things. It's not just let's purchase this to shut it down. I mean, there are cases, there were blends, and this is a path we should go down, that I 100% wanted to keep because it's a gap in our portfolio.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely don't have Rustica 1800 in it.
Right.
50% Rustica tobacco and 50% mint. Yeah, it's good stuff. Even has my face on it.
And I'm not just saying that about that particular blend. The FDA plays a role here.
Absolutely, yes. Were all of the blends from the Sutliff portfolio, were they all FDA approved already?
So I cannot give you a specific answer to that question.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a very broad answer to this question because FDA was a factor in some of the blend decisions. Okay. So I could get 2 lawyers to read through. Well, let's just reset. There are 2 aspects to being able to sell a tobacco product in general in the United States. One of them is called grandfather. Yep. That means, I know you know.
Oh, yeah. Please explain, though.
Yeah. I don't actually even really get it.
Okay. Well, that's on purpose. But
I hate learning stuff.
It means that to sell a tobacco product in the United States, you must have proof that that product was sold in February of 2007.
Yeah.
You might get some leeway in January, but literally they wanted the month. You needed an invoice that product was sold in February of 2007. You needed to commit on paper that nothing about that product had changed since February of 2007. Then you get a grandfather there. You don't have to submit all of that stuff, but if you provide the proof and sign under oath, essentially, that this is the truth, then you can get that. There is some leeway if a flavor house shut down and you can prove X, Y, and Z.
It's substantially the same component. Yeah.
No. We're still under grandfather, and even that leeway is not in writing, right?
Right.
Then you get substantial equivalence. That's the other category. Oh God, now I'm forgetting. As long as you can prove you were on the market in 2018 and that 501c3 is the exact same product as Luxury Navy Flake, and here's the paperwork to prove it. I have submitted all of this to you. It's in the same packaging. The packaging matters. So whatever touches the tobacco, if it was sold in a pouch,
even the pouch matters. Yeah.
Material of the pouch, or you switch to a tin, you can submit for all of that, and you submit that, and they say, but they don't actually tell you. It's like pornography to the FDA. They will recognize its substantial equivalence when they see it. So I can ask 2 lawyers to give me an opinion on a product. I can ask 2 scientists at the FDA. Yeah. They're going to give me different answers.
Absolutely.
Naturally, different manufacturers. This is same in cigar, pipe, cigarette, what have you. They're going to interpret, because they have to, these regulations differently. And they're going to make different decisions. What I can say in the case of STGs, we're very, very, very conservative when it comes to making these decisions, right? Some people can assume there's a gray area, therefore it's a loophole for you. We assume it's a gray area, it's a loophole for the FDA to shut you down.
Yeah, and you're publicly traded. You've already mentioned that. All of that is a big factor. You know, a small blending house may feel like they may be overlooked. Somebody who has quarterly returns.
it's not even being overlooked. They are not doing anything wrong. They're just reading it differently.
Yep.
And coming up with a different interpretation that my Danish lawyers don't come up with.
Right.
So again, it's not about them doing anything wrong, but different companies are going to come up with different decisions. And that did play a role in certain portions of this portfolio. That's about as far as I can go with that. Yeah.
It's good to get different perspectives, especially when it's something as crazy as the FDA regulations. So one of the things that I've been hearing is that fourth generation is coming back under STG in the future.
So I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I know I've had some calls with it. So it's funny. There was a call. I think we had to talk with the factory about some of these portfolio decisions and what we were keeping and what we weren't. And of course, Max is on the call and he's like, I cannot participate in this decision-making process.
Right.
That's my bad.
Yep.
Some of it we were already making. I'm literally searching nothing better for an audio podcast to listen to me search a spreadsheet.
I love it.
Okay. All right. I see 1897 and 1957. Now I have to scroll. Oh, dear. Okay. I don't know what the decision was. So I think, from what I can tell, and I'm not even sure what these are, 1897 and 1957 are discontinued, but that would not include, those were made by McBaron. The other fourth generation that are made by STG are remaining.
Okay. That was going to be one of my questions. Was it to the community? I could see it looking really bad if STG acquired fourth gen and kept all of those tobaccos, but if they're killing the McBaron made ones and keeping the ones they already make, then it's not really the optics aren't as bad as I thought they might be.
Well, and I will say, now I've got to scroll through, but I did just catch a glimpse. One of those sold 28 kilograms last year. That is not a lot of tobacco.
No. That's
somebody's favorite blend.
Yeah,
but it's just not a lot of tobacco. And the other one might have sold 200 kgs, which by our standards is not a lot of tobacco. See if I can find it. All right, I can't find it. That doesn't mean it's going away. It's under a different bucket. And so this leads to another question that I know you have, or I've seen on the phone, is about private label stuff that STG or McBaron makes outside of the U.S.
Yep.
Right? Certainly in the U.S., but also outside of the U.S.
Yes.
Within the U.S., that's a straightforward answer. If it was made by Sutlef, it's not getting made anymore.
Yep. So all of the Hearth and Home, all of the Seattle Pipe Club, the list goes on. But yeah, if it was U.S. based, it's done.
Yep. Pretty much everyone's favorite tobacco is gone.
Yes, from STG manufacturing, 100% on Seattle Pipe Club. Some of the Hearth and Homes were made by STG. When I had to cut down the portfolio, I was making, my folks in the factory were making we were making all of CI's private label until we shut down late in my little mini tin line. That's when it went over to Sutlef because we wouldn't make it in acid.
Right. So why are you going to keep making it if you already pushed it off once? Got it.
Right. But, like Cold Blood Red Moon, a couple of the Hearth and Homes had enough volume that they're still being made there. So it's not 100% of that.
Yep.
But then there's also these conversations about, I don't even want to throw out names, other manufacturers in Europe and who's supplying what to, right? So we already talked about the fact that a lot of this goes on in our industry, right? Whether it's a custom blend for somebody or just give me that so I can repackage it. It's cigars, pipe, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
When it comes to everything else in Europe. So that part of our organization, another work stream, is called contract manufacturing. That is run by a different team. The business decisions that get made there are going to be different than the business decisions I have had to make. If I knew the answers, it's kind of the thing one about I think a lot of these things we're talking about. I actually would give you the wrong answer because I don't know all of the facts. And certainly if I knew the facts, I would be under a legal non-disclosure agreement to do that. And it would just be bad business if I'm working with somebody and they don't want to disclose it. I know Jeremy, again, more articulate than me on these decisions. But yeah. So I don't have all of the insight people would want, and I would never talk about it if I did.
Yeah.
But I think, again, what is absolutely out there, you know that XYZ private label brand, call it private label, was manufactured by Sutliff. None of that today is being.
Yeah, that's fair. Are you aware of STG's planned price increases over the next year or two?
So, no. Here's what I'll say. Let's take a step back. Pipe tobacco volume declines. Let's take COVID out of it because that was a great year for everyone.
Right.
Everybody smoking their brains out. Hopefully, as you can be. It declines about 10 to 12% a year, and that's been happening since the 1960s.
Yeah.
So this a declining category. You could say that about cigarettes. I don't know what the percentage would be. It might be 5% some years, might be 10, might be less. The reason this is still good business is because you can increase price, right? That is just a fact of life in all tobacco. Cigarette companies increase prices twice a year.
Yep.
We usually increase once a year. So there will be price increases. We have also, as a company, not necessarily in pipe tobacco, both in the U.S. and internationally, we've made mistakes in getting too aggressive on price increase, where you get in front of your skis, and that looks really good on paper. Look at how much more profit there is until people start leaving to the competition, or consumption declines, or people switch to, some of the form of nicotine. I like to think as a company that we've learned some of those lessons about how you have to increase price.
Yeah.
I mean, our COGS have gone up. The cost to manufacture our products has gone up far more, and this is true for every industry.
Every industry, yes.
Far more than the increases that the consumer can withstand.
Yeah.
That's across the board, and I'd like to think that our company has learned the lesson that you've got to balance these things. Yes, there will be price increases.
Yeah, that's why I ask, because I've seen the price increases over the years, and in the past, which you're completely acknowledging, I've seen 10 to 15% or more in a year. Sometimes 2 increases, because all these emails go out to retailers and everybody.
Yeah.
And there were some rough years, and that's part of why I was curious if that's continuing. But it sounds like you've been learning from that.
I mean, I hope.
Right.
And certainly, there's 2 parts to this. There's the brand side, there's the sales side, and then there's the finance side.
Yeah.
The brand side, and to an extent the sales side, is not on the boots on the ground, is never in favor of broadly speaking, price increases. But that said, on a brand side, what does a brand manager do? And I think this is broadly true, but certainly with an STG. What is Max's role going forward? It is understanding the sales in every country, understanding the brand equity in every country and every brand, understanding the profit margins of every brand, understanding all of those aspects as a CEO of a mini business, and trying to make educated decisions on what's right for the business, what's right for the consumer, what will the consumer, where do you hurt yourself, where do you help yourself? Yeah, I mean, so that decision-making process will be the same going forward. That's probably as best as I can answer that question.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I appreciate it. It's broad, but and of course, when I keep saying you, we recognize that you are not STG by yourself, and a lot of the negative comments are about the broader company. So I really appreciate that you continue to take the rougher questions and handle it. But we know you didn't make every decision that we're talking about here.
I mean, again, there's a couple parts to that. One, say anything you want about me. I mean, it's really genuinely fine. Get it out. It's fine. Nobody needed to defend me. Okay, they're not my decisions, but they're my recommendations. I've made them. I'm happy with them. I'm not happy. That is absolutely the wrong. I'm comfortable. That's the wrong word too. I feel like I've made the right decision. Right.
Hey, Leonard. Were you involved in any capacity in any like pre-acquisition vetting before STG pulled the trigger on buying Sutliff and McMahon?
No, not at all. And and it circles back to some of the people stuff. So I'm always going to give you a long-winded answer. So from 2021 to the beginning of 24. The company told me, go start a separate company.
Yeah.
And try to develop this hemp tobacco. So I'm out there, and it's just like you, and I'm sure, Nate, now that you're running your own company, what that's like. Yep. You are product development, you are procurement, you're shipping, you're receiving, you're accounting, you're everything but the Danish lawyers sitting on your shoulder, including 7 salespeople around the country. And it almost killed me. But ultimately, in December of 2017, or 2023, they said, look, this isn't working. We got to shut it down. So I had to fire all my people, shut that down. And I was told, we'll figure out what we're going to do with you, Leonard.
Wow.
After we do a different destructuring within the company, which did not occur until June. So that was 7 long months of uncertainty. Yep. Nobody knew. I mean, literally about the day after, I was told, you have a job and this is what it is. And part of it is going to be this McFerrin thing. What that meant to me, and I talked about how quick we had to do the analysis and even the quickness of the Sutliff thing.
Yep.
The deadline was ridiculous, but having just come from that experience, there's nothing worse than very prolonged periods of uncertainty.
Yeah, no, very true.
And I was like, I'm not going to be the reason that this gets prolonged. I'm going to get this done. So we all know whatever the decisions are, people need to know as fast as possible.
Yeah.
And did we make all the right decisions, particularly on a blend by blend, and things Jeremy would have kept or I would have kept? Absolutely not. I have broken things, more than that.
Yeah.
But that was my mindset. I mean, I had just gone, I've been through job uncertainty. 7 months is a long time, dude.
Yeah, that's tough.
And I knew exactly what everybody at Sutliff and McBaron were going through very viscerally at that time. But it was a complete surprise. I don't know what levels of the organization, but it was at a very high level. I had no idea. Had I made PowerPoints from 8 years ago suggesting what to do about Sutliff, including purchases? Yes, but I literally, that was an open project, and then our head of commercial said it wasn't open. I mean, nothing had been done on it for 6 years.
Yeah.
When I saw that announcement, I re-forwarded in my last PowerPoint that I had to search for 2 hours ago. I'm assuming I can close this project now.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But one of my recommendations was just buy the guys, not McBaron. I was just talking about Sutliff.
Just Sutliff, yeah.
But that was, again, I mean, I don't know how many years ago. And no, it was a complete surprise.
So the actual acquisition, you were brought in for recommendations for the portfolios, not whether or not to go forward.
No, that's absolutely absolutely true. Back in November when I was standing there, with about 3 days' notice, said, we want you to be the in-person representative for STG at Sutliff when we make this announcement at the factory. So on election day, that's where I was.
Okay.
And Jeremy, I'm on one side of the crowd. Jeremy's on the other at the front of the room. And it's a damn, it's a video call on a big screen.
Yep.
Telling everybody about a lot of stuff they don't care about, right? Because it's about what's happening with McBaron and Spenborg, nicotine pouches, et cetera, and about 3/4 of the way through it. And the decision is that we will be shutting down Sutliff, and Jeremy's last day is so-and-so, and your last day will be so-and-so. And at the end of that, it was, Leonard, do you want to say anything?
Awkward.
And I said, no, I knew what,
yeah.
I knew. I was like, nope, there is nothing I can say that is going to make this situation different or better. So let's get to your question. But at some point during those questions, again, Jeremy bearing far more, this isn't about what you've done. What you've done is increase the property of this business, profitability of this business year over year, over year. These were his words, paraphrasing and not mine. It's not about STG. Been in the same situation, I might have made the same decision. This was about the decision. Whatever their reason for McBaron, so. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
He said it much better and more encouraging way. But in the end, and I don't know their reason, with any accuracy, that wasn't part of that. But the family decided to sell, as have many families before them, including Herman P. Lane, including just about everybody along the way.
There were tough decisions made throughout the history of all of these companies. I've circled a couple times to the Sutliff 507C and Peter Stokkebye 400 tobacco. It was amusing to see the arguments and to see the power of suggestion. And yesterday I sat down and I loaded 2 pipes, one with each, and smoked them back to back, despite all the confirmations, and was like, these are the exact same thing for sure.
I'm glad I was right on that answer. I know it's one of our plates, but yeah. I was like, shit, did I get this wrong?
Yeah, and I was hoping to call you out and be like, yo, no, you got that wrong, but no, it is right.
Thank God.
But what I'm curious about is Sutliff sells it as a straight Virginia, and Stokkebye is sold as a Virginia Perique. they are definitely the same. Do you know or have any insight into A, how it got marketed so differently, and B, which one of those blends it might be?
It's absolutely luxury navy plate. I have to go back to the factory and confirm what if there's Perique in there or not. As far as what got written on label, I feel like I went through this years ago, but is there Perique? Isn't there? Why they would decide to say no, it's a straight Virginia, and we said it's Perique, and who was right? I actually have to go back on that one and check.
Yeah,
I can get that in.
I was going to say, yeah, if you don't mind just shooting me an email when you get around to it, we can we can cover a follow-up of that later, because I think it might be a bit of column A and a bit of column B, because smoking it, I've smoked a lot of tobacco. I've done blending. I've been involved in a lot of things, and my gut feeling is that there is not enough Perique in it to call it a vapor, but more than zero.
I mean, and I could be wrong, and it's been a hot minute since I smoked it, but I get a little, and it could just be because there's a vinegar component to it, right? Yeah. But yeah. I get a little of that Perique sourness, but is that an ingredient or is that Perique? And I'll have to check on that, because I think at one point I 100% knew the answer, and certainly when I was on the forum, I was very confident, and I was like, "Shit, right about this."
Yeah, no. If you could get that answer, that'd be awesome, because I'd love to, put that to rest. Not that it will. People will still argue. They'll still believe what they want to believe, and they've been told something long enough that they'll want to believe it anyway. So, but it'd be nice to have a definitive answer.
You change the stickering on the same damn pen, they'll tell you. I would tell you it's not the same, because I'm going to taste with my eyes. Here's one I will confirm, but I think I saw it out there. Maybe it was on our little Pipes magazine forum. You don't need to worry about malted dulce going away, because it's creme brulee.
All right, so creme brulee is in fact malted dulce.
I reached out to Jeremy. I was like, "You confirm this?" He's like, "Yep."
All right. So it'll stay in bulk. It just won't be the tinned version of it. It's the exact same tobacco, though.
Correct.
Funny. Yeah, and there's so much cross-pollination between blenders and so many relabeled blends that it's really funny sometimes when you get to the bottom of something and go, yeah. I'd told Jeremy for years that I knew 507C wasn't a Sutliff product, but at the time he was never going to tell me yes or no. I could just tell.
They don't have the equipment to make that. They made all that stuff as crumble cakes because they couldn't make plates.
Yep.
They would have done it all in plate. They didn't have the equipment to do it.
Yep. So, I think in closing, you've answered part of the last question I had, and it's, your explanation for shutting down Sutliff and McBaron and narrowing the portfolios is the general future of pipe tobacco. But I kind of wanted to ask more generally, what is the future? Does STG plan to stay in pipe tobacco? I know the quarterly returns are always focused on cigars and next-gen nic products. Is this really part of the future of STG? Are they committed to pipe tobacco? And is it growth? Is it shrink? Is it maintained? What's going to happen?
Okay, so there's a million ways to come at. We just spent $70 million on a pipe tobacco company, or whatever the number was.
Right.
That's a little bit of commitment. So I'm going to go out on the limb, and knowing some of the financials, that this is still a good business for us. And I want to make sure it stays that way. And that's why I made the decision that I made, or the recommendation. Let's be clear. Pipe tobacco is absolutely declining. The number of pipe smokers, by everything we can tell, mostly using CDC reports, it's about 1.2 million in the United States, and that number is increasing.
Yay, hipsters.
Yeah. Thank you, young hipsters.
No, it's real, and it's probably true globally.
Yeah.
Part of the challenge for the industry is they're never going to smoke as much. I'm in a shed in my backyard. I have not put down this pipe all day. Nobody's going to smoke like bearded old men smoke, right? Yep. There will be a point where we hit this bottom where what we call the new enthusiasts overtake the old timers, or the general pipe smoker. So the industry will always be there. We're still going to be going through volume declines. There's going to be winners, from volume. Like I said, some of these guys focused on small batch. This is a great thing for them. And that's also why I would say I made some shitty recommendations. They have come to fruition, but we should not worry about the health of the industry. Because, yes, while our focus, and we make great blends, that even in our minds, Orlick is not that big in the U.S., but great tobacco product. And it's going to provide opportunities for folks who want to focus on that to the market to keep things going from a variety and an interest standpoint. So I'm not pessimistic about pipe tobacco as an industry. Again, contradictory. I hope I'm making the decisions to make this an optimistic industry. I'm just pessimistic on the people it affects.
Yeah, I think the future of pipe smokers, like you mentioned, they're not smoking all day every day. I think it's becoming a weekend warrior hobbyist sort of thing, and that really does change the landscape of the industry. It doesn't mean it's bad. It definitely is a shift.
I have PowerPoints on these things. We call it the post-college dropout. You pick up the hobby around that college age, you may be a tradesman or whatever, and then you start forming a family and having to work full time behind a desk. And then in your mid-30s, you come back. We need more of those dudes. They need less of the people. I was out at a little show last night, and I'm smoking my pipe outside, and what's the comment I get? I love that. My grandfather used to smoke a pipe.
Yeah.
You never get my brother, my nephew,
my wife, my sister.
It's always my grandfather. But again, that's changing. And again, look, I forget the year, 2016, 2017, here's where this contradictory, Leonard's destroying pipe tobacco. I went to DC with Jeremy. I don't think it was Sykes. I think it was Tracy, with Mike Gold from Orango, with lawyers and regulatory folks. And we sat in front of the FDA with pipe tobacco sample to try to convince them, while they're implementing a flavor ban for all tobacco, that this is not a child issue when it comes to pipe. There are no children taking up the damn pipe.
They couldn't figure it out if they tried, yeah.
And we had their own CDC data to be able to put in front of them. And when they came out with those rules, it said, we are not concerned with pipe tobacco at this time. A flavor ban on pipe tobacco means you get to smoke Five Brothers.
Yeah.
So, again, and this is self-defensive, and it's also why nobody can hurt my feelings. I'm the chairman of the Pipe Tobacco Council. It wasn't me alone, but I did a lot of the talking, and I helped to prevent the real apocalypse. And I also just killed all your flavors.
Good job.
True.
Yeah, like you said, both can be true. It's a complicated world out there.
Yeah, this isn't a hobby to me. this is who I am. I mean, I get everybody's passion, but you don't pay for your child's school. Is what I'm doing. You don't quit a very nice job to do this and stay with it because you're a hobbyist.
I get it. I gave up a 13-year legal career writing patents to sell pipes and took over Greywoodie.
Right. Your wife must love that decision-making process.
Yeah, it was definitely, like you said, I was miserable. There was a mental health aspect that she was supportive. I don't know about love, but she was supportive.
She doesn't.
No.
She's really mad at you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've 5 years. I've been the vice president of the United Pipe Clubs of America, and I get it.
No, I'm kidding. She's happy you're happy.
This has been a great interview. I really appreciate you reaching out. Is there anything you'd like to cover in closing that I may have missed?
No. I appreciate you guys taking the time as well to. The answers aren't any better, but hopefully they are more articulate. Maybe not as articulate as Jeremy, but in this forum versus a forum. So I appreciate you guys giving me the time to just, talk it through.
We appreciate it. I'm glad we could do it.
And there you have it. Good job.
See you next week.
So, without further ado, what's the guy's name?
Leonard Wortzel.
Leonard Wortzel? Oh. Let me write down some edit notes here.
I don't know. It's perfectly acceptable.
Okay. I mean, as far as everyone who listens to our show is concerned, it's acceptable. But to our guests, probably not.
No. We don't want to be that kind of host.
What's his name again? I'll write it down. What's his last name?
Wortzel. WORT. Sorry.
Wortzel?
Yes. This is
Anyway, stand by for Greywoodie Minus.